The style report analyzes the strategical profile of a player. It's pretty interesting to do it for historical players. We'll try it in this video, but also in preparation against your next opponent to see his or her strengths and weaknesses. How does he tick? Is this an attacking player? Does he appreciate quick draws and so on? But also for the most important player, yourself, because the style report gives you interesting insights in your strengths, especially because it analyzes more than 30 different strategic themes and gives you feedback how you score in those themes and how often they appear in your games in relation to the standard grandmasters. Calling the style report starts with prepare against, because this is the quickest way to open the player index of your big reference database, in our case, the Mega 25. And today I'd like to show you a famous world champion, Michael Tal, and we'll do a little experiment because we know that Tal, in his long chess career, changed his style. Before he played the World Championship against Botvinnik, he was a very, very fierce attacking player, risking everything. And later he became more calm and more controlled, a bit more risk averse. Let's see whether the style report shows this. We start by selecting Michael Tal and clicking on style report in the player index. And we select only long games of Tal here, because usually blitz games are more entertaining, have longer end games, and they have different statistics. And we select a time range of, say, 1952, young Tal until 1960, maybe 1960, 62. Okay, 10 years. 10 years of young Tal. And the style report is pretty fast, even though it analyzes and replays 600 games, because there's not much engine analysis involved. And we replay every game and look at every position, but we do it using all cores of the processor, so it's pretty fast. Okay, let's have a look at the evaluations from Michael Tal. 8 different graphs, and immediately it's striking to see his aggressiveness and his risk. 136% for aggressiveness. That's in relation to the maximum aggressiveness of average grandmasters. He even exceeds this. So young Tal is a very aggressive player who takes high risks. And he has a positional understanding. Its positional score is high, but it's not as brutal as his aggressiveness. And also he's a decent endgame player. Quote of decided games is very high. Theory, knowledge, theoretical lines, high for his time. Scores very well against his contemporaries. And normal players against equal opponents would expect to score between 50 and 55%. He scores 81%. Maybe a statistical bias by the selection of brilliant games in the database. In addition to those graphical evaluations, we have some observations where the program expresses the statistical findings in natural language. Let's see what is written in bold typeface here. The statements in bold are things where the program finds high statistical significance. And for Tal, this is keeps queens on the board, enjoys asymmetric material, really loves sacrifices, not very good king safety. And of course, young Tal attacks the king. Furthermore, we have an overview of Tal's openings at this time, and we can see how he scores in different variations. For modern players, you would have the ELO performances. In the 1960s, we didn't have ELO ratings yet, so the tables are lacking performances. But the score is compared to the expectancy of Tal against his opponents in those games, which is around 70% with white. That would yield an equal sign here for this Spanish variation. And if he scores better than his expected score, you have a plus, or if he scores worse, you have a minus or even 2 minus. So if Tal scores with white 53%, that's a bad score for him. So c4 was probably not the right opening for young Tal. And now for something really interesting. Now we look at the theme games. There are 30 different themes, and the program lists example games for those themes and compares the quote and the frequency of those themes with the frequency in standard Grandmaster games. Let's have a look at King's Attack White, first theme here. And we can see in the round brackets that Grandmasters are to be expected to score, to have this theme in 38% of their games. And with young Tal, we find it at 58%, which is very significantly higher. And this is expressed by these 3 plus signs, showing that this theme is very, very important in Tal's games. Let's just have a short look what kind of theme games we have. Successful defense, counterplay, sacrifices, gambits, sharp openings, calm games, queenside play. It's a minus for Tal. Not much queenside play. He has less queenside play than average Grandmaster. Center play, close positions, open positions, and space advantage, space disadvantage, and so on and so on. And we could, for any theme, we could click on one of those games, and let's just try it for very trivial, a strong bishop for white. We click on this first game here, and this will load the game and show the position where the strategic theme occurs, and we can see indeed white has a very strong bishop here. Besides being material up, bishop on d5 is dominating. All right, that was part 1 of the experiment. Part 2 follows. We wanted to look at the older Tal, and now we look at games from 63 to, well, Tal, I don't know, maybe 2010. I think he died earlier. Doesn't matter. And we look at the later games, and we find a different picture. We don't have 140% aggressiveness anymore. Still an aggressive and entertaining player, but his risk, which was far above 100% for young Tal, it's much lower now. He tends to be a bit more positional. Still a very good theoretician, but also his tenacity, the fighting spirit, which expresses the number of short draws, generally the length of draws, the drawing quote, and other things. It's much less for older Tal, which maybe also has something to do with his health in those years. Looking at the opening, he scores quite well. Still good theoretician and with white, and so we have a lot of plus signs here with white, a strong white player. And again, we find all those theme games, as I mentioned. We can have a look at the example queenside play of white here, and that's pretty dominant queenside white, and you already know this. One final remark about those theme games: they are sorted by the strategical strengths of the theme in those games. So the game you have first here is always the game where the strategic theme is expressed most strongly. Thank you very much.